Hey, Spartan Heads. This week we visit with Southwestern varsity boys basketball coach Brady Days as we learn more about his time as a high school senior working for the NBA's developmental team in Fort Wayne, the Fort Wayne Fury, how he chose to spend his free time at Ball State, a common mistaken identity problem he constantly faces, and you know we're going to talk about this year's big Shelby County Championship win. We've got Southwestern boys basketball coach Brady Days with us tonight on Talking Heads. Thanks for taking time with us, Coach Days. Appreciate it.
I'm excited. Anytime I can talk about myself for an hour or so is good stuff. So we can go 2 hours if we want. I can go days just talking about myself. So we're gonna have fun.
All right, that sounds like a good time. So
I love it.
You're about to enter your 15th season. You've amassed 130 wins, 2 sectional titles, and a couple championship county titles. But before we get into your time as a Spartan, we like for folks to go back and talk a little bit about where they grew up. And so you grew up in the DeKalb County. You went to high school there. So talk to us a little bit about your high school and a little bit about your high school time.
Well, that's it. I grew up in a little town called Ashley, Indiana, not a town, out in the country, which I'm about 2 miles off of I-69. Most people know it when you're heading up to maybe Pokagon to go tobogganing. We're probably maybe 2 exits, I think, before you get to Pokagon. But my family has a farm, a small farm. We were hog farmers. I think we have about 400, 500 acres. My dad was a factory worker. Mom worked in the cafeteria. And really, farming is what it was all about. I have 4 brothers. So really it was, I think, to a point that hurts me a little bit because I don't understand women as well. Maybe that's why I'm a divorced guy. But I have 4 brothers, and farming was everything. It really was. Sports is kind of in the back burner. I'm the only one that moved away from maybe a 10-mile radius. I know 2 of my brothers live in a 500-foot radius from where we grew up. So I grew up, and it's all about my friends, I think, that got me attached to sports. And then when I was doing sports, I did basketball for only a couple of years in high school, and then I made a decision. I'm just not good enough. I wasn't good enough. Ironically, as I chose, I wasn't good enough. I became the little puberty word hit, and then I shot up to 6'4", and then that helped my vertical ability. And so by the time I was hanging it up, is by the time I was halfway decent at basketball, and that's it. So I wrote it out to about my junior year, and I was like, you know what? I want to be a manager for Purdue. So
okay.
And by that time, I started working at 12. My dad didn't pay me, so I started working at the age of 12 milking cows for the biggest dairy farm in the county, and I'd drive my 3-wheeler there, and that's a whole different thing because those are illegal, and you're not supposed to be on the road, and I had to come up with a plan every time a cop pulled me over, like, oh, I did not have a clue this is illegal. And that was 4 or 5 times, but they were always lenient. So I was working hardcore on a dairy farm, and then at one point I was working for 3 dairy farms, and very active in 4-H in the sense of hog showing. I think these are things that people probably have no clue about me because they see me in a fancy suit or whatever like that, and but my roots are definitely into farming. I miss the aspect of farming. I don't miss below 40-degree temperature farming or above 80-degree temperature farming. But But then I went to DeKalb, like I said, I played a couple years of basketball there. And actually my senior year, I started working for the CBA for the Fort Wayne Fury, which is now non-existent. It's now the Mad Ants, and it's not CBA. And ironically, Keith Smart, who everybody probably knows, he was the head coach. So yeah, I hit the shot. So
Damon Bailey also played up at Fort Wayne, probably about that. Yep.
And we had Moochie Norris was one of our best players. It was really neat because you got to see all those Indiana guys you might like, Purdue guys you might like. They were coming in and out. It was just a whole different thing. And so my whole senior year, I was working with Fort Wayne Fury. And right or wrong, you know, I guess I probably wish I would have toughed it out. Like I said, I became a lot better. I was just an average player. Then when I shot 6'4" and I was dunking and stuff, I probably could have helped a little bit. But my friends were playing intramural sports. I was like, I'm going with them. So
okay.
But that was it. Then off I went to Ball State. But I really I have so much pride for DeKalb, and I love coming back home. And I'm so tight with all my high school buddies. But off I am here in Indianapolis and working.
So your time in the dairy parlor, were they double sixes, double eights? What were we talking?
Okay, so I had one farmer. The main farmer was a double six. They've now advanced to double seven. Once I quit, they realized they had to go double seven because the workers probably had to. They
couldn't keep up the pace the guy that you did.
But it was a double six, and then I had another farmer. They were double four, and they ironically have now gone to a machine where the cows automatically come in and it milks itself. They milk themselves. And then I had one who was a grade B farmer. We only milked 22 cows, and that was just a single three. But those are the three farmers I was working for. And I mean, I really was. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I was a workaholic. And even to this day, I'm not a sleeping guy. So, you know, I'd go to bed at midnight, wake up at 3:30 and go milk cows. And I don't like to sleep. I like to do things but I really enjoyed the dairy farm, but man, I would never be a dairy farmer.
Never take a vacation. 12 hours a day, each day. You need to be in the same spot doing the same thing over and over and over. So no, I've got an affinity for that. Worked farm construction when I was in high school, and built a lot of dairy parlors in southern Indiana. So when you start milking cows, that's Alpha Laval was our folks, and that's how we did it. So, well, good stuff.
At a young age, I learned to like AM radio, which I remember at first I hopped in and the farmer was listening to AM radio. I'm like, what are we doing here? And by the end, I'm turning it to AM radio and listening to
700 WLW down in southern Indiana. That's the only way you got to listen to the World Series or the NBA championships when you're working that stuff. So I get it completely. So you talked a little bit about your 4-H stuff, and I've had some discussions with you. I've also seen some tweets around county fair time. You showed pigs. What else did you show?
Yeah, you know, I just showed hogs, and then my older brother showed some dairy beef and showed some lambs. We got to the point, it's almost, I always feel like high school basketball. The younger brothers continue to get better at basketball because you're watching your older brothers. And that was the kind of way it was with hog showing. I had two brothers that were very active in livestock judging, and they went off to Joliet Junior College. And I remember one time my brother, I'm not sure where I got my reserve grand champion hog, but he came back from Joliet with a hog in his trunk, a live hog in his trunk, in his Monte Carlo SS, and he brings it back, and I believe that was a reserve grand. We also got one from Danville, Indiana. They helped me, and it got to the point, and then they were like my coach in the sense of every morning you have to walk it, every night you have to walk it, and then the way we fed it, whether it was inhumane or not, we were making sure there was enough fish oil in that food to make them lean. But so I tease about this like I tease about I was third grade layup champion. I make a big joke about third grade layup champion. How great was I? I was the best hog shower for the last 3 years straight. And whenever you're the best hog shower, you then get to show all the animals on the Friday night. So I did that 3 different years where I showed all the animals, steers, sheep, goats. And so I showed just hogs, but 3 years I showed a little bit of everything.
how's that work for a social life for a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid?
I think I had one girlfriend maybe in 5 years, so I don't think the women were necessarily flocking at it, but I also didn't wear Wranglers very much. Maybe I should have worn Wranglers and some Garth Brooks shirts better. So, that's it. I never wore work boots. I always had that little city in me. And I think my dad used to say that a lot, like, what kind of kid are you? Because I just wasn't that, but I did love the farming aspect of business.
You could do all the things everybody else did, just the way you went about it. Obviously, two things though, and the self-deprecating I appreciate, but at the end of the day, you were also, you talked about being grand champion, 3 times in a row or 3 years in a row. You're the one at the very end of the fairgrounds showing the animals off, which means you were obviously very successful, and whatever skinny tie you had on that day worked. But at the end of the day, you were very successful, and I think a point that I'd like to make is that I agree with you completely. The last kid, right, if they can follow the coaching and take the razzing, usually ends up following in line and able to take the coaching of their older siblings. I had an older sibling as well, so I get a little bit of that. So
and it's fun, and that's the thing. And to this day, I really try to be well-rounded. Like, I really want to be able to have a conversation with you guys about whatever it may be, but I want to be able to talk to this kid about hogs and dairy cows, and I watch a lot of TV. I'm always big on, I want to carry on conversations, and now my depth might vary at times on a subject, but that's it. I love the pigs. I love the sports. I love just having conversations with people.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about, you finished your career at DeKalb while you're helping support, now that we find out a little backdrop here, the Fort Wayne Fury, and then you make the decision to go to Ball State. So a question about that, was it the decision to go to Ball State to be an educator, or was the decision to go to Ball State to find a way into coaching or sports management? What was the angle for you to make the decision to go to Ball State?
Yeah, it was, like I said, I didn't take school as serious as I needed to. I thought every farm kid, I think, thinks, oh, I'll take over dad's farm. Well, we have 4 brothers, and dad doesn't have that big a farm. And dad was like, no, you're not taking over anything. I'm not going anywhere. So it got to the point where it's the friends you hang out with. And I had a huge Purdue fan. I'm going to Purdue. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to Ball State. I'm going to go to Ball State with a lot of my friends. And then I decided, and I always thought maybe I would be a Purdue manager. And then I you know what? I'm at Ball State. Let's go. So I just walked over to the office. I said, this is what I want to do. And really off it went from there.
So you did this when your freshman year?
Yeah, my freshman year. I just remember and ironically, like I said, I was all going in on Purdue. So I was the last one to make the decision, say, hey, let's go to Ball State. And all my buddies from high school were rooming up. I didn't have one. So I then had to get some guy from Lafayette. And I remember sitting there the first week being like, I'm going to go walk over to the arena just for the heck of it and see if I can be a manager.
Well, I mean, it'll go back, though. I mean, it sounds like, from everything that I've heard you say so far, you did not want idle time. Idle time and you don't hang out well together. And so this is what had made you successful, filling and booking your time up. And so you walk over, and when Coach Buckley was there in 2000, right?
Yep, just got hired. So he's probably there a couple months, yeah.
So he gets hired in, and in walks this kid that's like, hey, by the way, just in case, here's my resume. I've been working with the Fort Wayne Fury. By the way, I can do this, I can do that. And so really, what role did you play then with Ball State?
So, well, and the thing is, it's funny, you said something about I went into sports. I did go into sports management, which, now I look at and I try to encourage kids not to go that route because it's so limited. And ironically, when I was at Fort Wayne with Fort Wayne Fury, I've met guys like Mel Daniels for the Pacers, and as a equipment guy, there's plenty of dead time. So I would go over there and smooth with guys like Mel Daniels. And ironically, the Toronto Raptors had Walker Russell was a scout. And the more I mean, those guys would scout they were your common guys. Mel Daniels and Walter, those guys were there all the time. So the more I hung out with them, the more I'm like, man, I want to be a scout. And the thing about scouting is you got to be a college player, you got to be an NBA player, but then you're up to scout.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get that shoe in if you're not. But I thought, well, let's do it. Let's go sports management. Let's see where I can go, and then let's go into managing. And so no, education wasn't my first thing. Then it got to the point where I didn't want to do sports management. I didn't want to do the dizzy bat game at halftime. I didn't want to do all that kind of stuff. I was like, I want to get into coaching. And I think that's probably Coach Buckley was like, I started looking up to him and thinking, wow, this is something we can do. And I feel like you're lying if you say, I know there's people that'll be like, oh, the only reason he's a teacher is because of coaching. I think that's the way for a lot of coaches is we found a love in sports and kids that, okay, and so off.
That education and an education degree was the medium to get to the ends.
Exactly, and that's it. So off I went, and what I learned, I think of maturity, discipline, so much. You can learn it from so many different people, but Coach Buckley, who wouldn't even know that. I mean, I'm a manager. He respected me, but the impact you have on kids that you don't even know in your life is kind of amazing.
Tenure at Ball State, and then you transition. It's the 2005, 2006 season is your first season. That's your first instance in Shelby County, right?
No, I would say, let's see. I graduated 05, 06. I went to Mount Vernon for 1 year.
Okay.
I think that is. I think 06,
06, 07. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay, cool.
I was wrong.
Yeah. So 05, 06, 2 days before school starts, Mount Vernon calls me and they're like, hey, you want to teach middle school health? And I'm like, yes. And then they trail off, but in the trail off, they say, and girls soccer. But at that time I was like, yeah. So I started my coaching career in junior high girls soccer. But
I'm sure you had a lot of experience with soccer leading up to that first coaching job.
Yeah, there's soccer. I've never coached girls. I've never coached, so it was an experience. But and I love Mount Vernon, and it was awesome. Yep. And yeah, so then we go into 06, 07 when Southwestern calls me, and ironically they call me when I'm on the ferry from the Statue of Liberty to Ellis Island. And I can't hear him, but I'm trying to make out. And Jason Bass was the AD and calls me. He's like, hey, we want to offer you a job. And I'm like, give me some time to think about it. One, because I can't hear you. There's so many people on this boat here. And it was so tough to leave Mount Vernon. I mean, it's crazy in 1 year how many friends I still have from Mount Vernon. And I signed my lease at Castleton up in Castleton. So I'm like, wow, do I want to make that 55-minute commute? And but I want to be a head coach, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's great. So when people give you a little razzing about what would you know about coaching girls? Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I've coached girls before.
Yeah,
Mount Vernon.
I don't like soccer. No, I don't. Yeah, I do. At one point, I was the winningest coach in Mount Vernon history. Granted, it was the first year, but I was the winningest coach.
There you go.
Have you got that trophy?
I have the game soccer ball. Southport Middle School left it behind. I'm like, I will keep that.
Take that. Thank you, sir.
It's in the garage. Hayden and I use it. It's not like it's framed anywhere.
Oh no, we'll work on that.
You can hold that over the top of Coach Meredith's head, right?
Head.
Yeah,
That's
hopefully
exactly
he gets there someday and he can be at my level.
Spartans are your 2020 Shelby County champions.
To switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about this last year's Shelby County tourney. You play Morristown in the semifinals, which Morristown is just on a buzzsaw, just literally mowing through opponents the last 3 or 4 years with the system that they've created and really the terrific kids they've got. And you have an opportunity to play them, I think, second or third game of the season. They really come out on fire. I think we're still trying to find our rhythm as a ball team, get beat pretty handedly, and then we draw them in the semis. And so what were you thinking when you draw Morristown in the semis of the Shelby County tourney this year?
The funny thing about the county draw is you pick a team, but you're going to play 2 of the 3 teams anyway. So it's tricky. And then you sit there and you go, do I want the 6 o'clock game or do I want the 7:30 game? And I go back and forth with what I really want, but I think I like the 6 o'clock game just because then I can actually scout with an even head in the sense of I know what I'm going to do. But when you play a 7:30 game, you're scouting and you're like, what about our game? What about our game? What about our game? You're not giving it everything.
Right.
But you're exactly right. Morristown still, they were on that momentum from the year past, and we still were like, are they awesome? And that's this. We play them, boom, Saturday after Thanksgiving, and they did. They gave it to us. So I don't know. I can't remember necessarily what the feeling was when you draw them. I don't think you want to draw them because I think they obviously probably were the better team out of everybody else. But once the game came, it's unbelievable how you can think of certain things that were such big points of that. We got in some foul trouble, and our backup guys, I mean, Riley Snap came in, Noah Muldoon and Declan. At one point, those 3 guys were in the game at the same time, and I don't know if they ever were in the game at the same time throughout the season. But the perfect, it's funny because some people don't like swing offense, but they ran it to a T, and they just kept running, and boom, it was 40 seconds in a basket, and that'll destroy the opponent. And then Krim ends it with a 3-pointer to go into halftime. I think, I don't know, we were down 4 at halftime.
Yep, down 4.
Yeah. And Aiden's having a heck of a game. And third quarter, Aiden dominates, and they come out or they're face guarding Aiden, which, okay, if you're going to face guard Aiden, now Annick's going to kill you.
Got 2 Hartzels here.
Yeah. So they're face guarding Aiden, and that was something new that we haven't seen. So Annick kind of went to work.
And then late in the third quarter, as it looks like, I think we're up 4. We get the last possession. It's really a 2-for-1 coming out of the fourth, and you run a spread. Aiden gets on the left-hand side, makes one move, and goes up with the left hand, literally at the buzzer, hits it. He is pumped up, juice. The whole Spartan Nation is going nuts. You're up 6, heading to the fourth, and then you have the very first possession of the fourth quarter. Aiden goes left, horribly turns his ankle upside down. So the fact that we're up in the booth, whatever the booth is, and you can see the sole of his shoe, the kid goes down, and we're like, oh no. But you go from, up 6, and really the kid that's really leading your team scoring wise and making Morristown completely adjust defensively. And the next thing you know, to your point, you've got Muldoon, you've got Papano, you've got Riley was in there for a little bit too, but you literally have a number of kids going from an up 6 position. You end up winning that ball game by 18 points.
That's kind of crazy that you say that. I didn't remember we won by that much, but and that is the thing. Like, it got to the point where the way they were guarding Aiden, it was like, yeah, this is good. A lot of credit I feel when we go back to some of the game planning, which game planning is not much, but it was the Kirk Van Gordon, the way he defended Krim was really one of those things you just don't see in the stat line, but that was a heck of a thing. Like, I forget when we decided, hey, let's put Kirk on the best player. I'm not sure if we chose that in the Monrovia tournament or when we finally got to that, like Kirk can be our stopper, but Kirk Van Gordon did a great job stopping some guys, and it was neat. As you were talking about that, I'm getting goosebumps. I get goosebumps about that kind of stuff, but it was neat to see. We knocked off Morristown, but then it was also scary because it was a lot of hoopla. We got the traveling bell, and I'm like, you can tell your parents to come down here and take pictures. Let's not bring it out. Let's not take pictures out there. And it's tough because you're so excited yourself. And
right.
And my parents are there. So I was like, well, we'll take pictures when everybody leaves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's neat, but it's also, well, we got 24 hours.
It's only game 1.
Yeah. So, and then we didn't miss a beat. And it's kind of funny. I think back, let's see, in 2011, Davey, our Scotland kid, was a starter all the way through, and he got injured in the sectional semifinals, and the sectional championship walkthrough, he's like, I can't go. And it's like, oh boy. And I remember I was married at the time, and I remember I'm shaving, getting ready, and I told my wife at the time, I go, I don't feel good about this. Davey can't go, so Messer's going to have to come in, and Messer, you know, we go back to puberty. I don't know if he's at puberty. So, and then about 4 minutes in, Davey comes down. He goes, let's get me in, and then off he went, and we won that championship. And that's the way it was here. Aiden came in, walked through. The team doctor told me that night, he's like, he's got to get X-rays. This is bad. And I go tell Hartzell's dad, I'm like, hey, you guys do what you got to do, but the doctor says bad. We do team walkthrough, and I don't know how much Aiden really pays attention to walkthrough anyway. He's kind of just a freak. But I'm done. Aiden's not going to play. Declan starts. Declan hits the 3 to start up the game. We throw Aiden in, and Aiden feels no pain, and off he goes. So it reminds me of 2011, Aiden and Davey coming in, and but so much credit to our team. It's funny when I look at the special teams we've had, and by special I mean counties and sectionals, and the 10, 11, 16, this team. You just how much you love them, and when you love them, they love coming to work. You love coming to work, and we just get after it.
No, it was we obviously had an amazing view there, but defensively, I want to say, and I want to say there were 7 charges that we took defensively against Triton that were probably at least 65% of them were obvious calls that there were no way you could get out of it. The other 30 went our way, but just defensively amazing. You talk about KVG and the job he did. That's why we call it the KVG when you take a charge. But defensively, that was a great adjustment that you and your team made and your coaching staff made to really put him on lockdown of the best player there, and a lot of benefits there.
We even talked about that, Coach. You really disrupted Morristown, and KVG was definitely the stopper, and you just got them out of rhythm, and you kind of got them out of rhythm pretty early, and they really never got back into it. And so credit to that game plan and those tweaks that you made.
You know, and that's what I'll tell you. You know, every year is different in the sense of the amount of film we watch, or as detailed as we are in the scouting report. And like with these guys are probably the best film guys I've ever coached. Like they get intrigued by it. Usually when you watch film, maybe 3 guys will get it, but man, they are top to bottom really into it. And usually I end every film session when we're dealing with a county school with, you guys know these guys better than I know them. I mean, you knew what he shot in 5th grade.
Kirk Van Gordon, Ethan Windling, that 21 group has played against Crim every single year. And I'll tell you the interesting thing for I think the early part, you know, that 5th, 6th, and whatever year, for a lot of years, I mean, Morristown was handing it to us. And I want to say it was the 7th grade season when they went on an attack on a Hartzell and face guarded him. And they had another kid playing DeArmond. And I remember hearing from Mike DeArmond when they played him, he said Van Gordon had like 16 or 17 points. And it literally was that what you just said. It was the next kid up. Let's be very cognizant and very high level thinking about basketball. And he said all Kirk did was, as soon as he saw the double team and went to the block, caught the ball off the backboard, that was it.
Yeah.
So really good stuff there. So I got to ask you that this gets a little different version, right, Coach? So you're able at the end of the Shelby County tournament, you know, to I mean, it's a big deal, right? Did DeKalb have a county tourney in the county of DeKalb? I mean, it's so varying with the size of the schools, probably, right?
No, they didn't, and that's the thing. That's why I think it took me a couple of years to get it, to really take it in. You know, I even look back to 06, 07, my first year here, and I'll tell you what, those guys, I came in guns a-blazing, Coach Buckley, guns a-blazing, and those guys had a tough road in the sense of, it went from loosey-goosey, and every coach is different, and there's so many ways to skin a cat, to I came in hardcore, and I kind of feel bad. We won maybe 7, I think, that year, but also we laid a great foundation. And so, no, the county tournament, and those first couple of years were kind of a blur. The second year, we won 2 games. We had a really rough group of seniors. I mean, not rough in the sense that they were good kids. They didn't win much ever. So no, I think it took me a couple of years to understand county tournament basketball. When I was at DeKalb, there was conference tournaments before class basketball. I remember going to conference tournament.
Yep.
But no county tournament. You know, DeKalb was so monstrous, and then they had East Side, which is a 1 or 2A, and Garrett, who's a blooming 3A now.
Were you in Maui? Look at the head nod. Yes, I was. So again, and there's a second conversation that we'd love to have with you about this role that you're playing. So you're playing a role on a college basketball team, one of those clearly behind the scenes, selfless servants. You're in Maui, and first of all, you're like, I'm in Maui. Mark Hawaii off the box list of the places I've been for a guy that never travels outside of the state of Indiana.
Yeah, 5 years.
And so you've got that, and then you get matched up and paired up this MAC team against Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that game, I'll tell you, that would be up there as one of the greatest times of my life. You know, just like I said, with so many kids growing up, we didn't travel. And if we did, it was 2-day vacation. You know, maybe we're going to get 1-night hotel, but we're not doing 2 nights hotel. So I wasn't well-rounded in the sense of travel. And we go out there, and it was my sophomore year. So the first year, I'm just a manager, and then there's 6 managers, 2 head managers.
Mm-hmm.
So my sophomore year comes up, and it's one of those, man, I hope I become head manager for that trip. So I do. Me and another guy are the head managers, and we travel out there, and it was, when you go to any tournaments in college basketball, they hook you up. Like, I mean, back then when they had the Hoosier Classic and the Boilermaker Blockbuster, when you go, that they'll give you a goodie bag, whether it's a travel suit, whatever it may be. So we go out there, and maybe we get out there 2 nights early, 3 nights early. But I know there's one night we have the banquet, the pre-banquet, and Bill Raftery, who's my favorite announcer, is doing the MCing.
Wow.
And while you do that, you then have every coach will come up and, you know, just have fun. It's kind of like when we do awards night, you kind of have fun, talk about your team, roast some guys a little bit.
Yep.
And, you know, that was really neat because you have Roy Williams, who was at Kansas. You had Coach K for Duke. Dave Odom at South Carolina, Seton Hall, Lewis Orr, Steve Lavin at UCLA. And you know, it's really funny because Steve Lavin, I think, is married to a really young woman at the time. I don't know if they're still married. So they really roused him for that. And it was just a lot of fun. Coach K's wife sitting right behind me at her table. And so we do that. We're swimming in the pool. We're having a heck of a time. And, you know, as a manager, yeah, you're having a heck of a time. Who cares? But
it's a spring break, and like you shared, you know, you don't travel a lot, and at one point in time, you're in the pool, you're looking around, and you go, "I'm in Hawaii, for free."
And the beaches aren't the coral reef is kind of sharp on your feet. But I went out there, and I couldn't even swim very well. But there was this girl from San Diego State. I don't know why she was out there, but I went out there to swim over there. She motivated me a little bit. So I'm out there, but I had a lot of fun. And then we play Kansas, and they're like, "Hey, you have to videotape." Oh, that's awful. So I videotaped the game. So then we beat Kansas. They, at that time, just one of the greatest wins ever.
They're third. I think at the time they were third in the nation. And then you guys go on to play was it that the number 4 UCLA, right?
Correct. And ironically, UCLA was who we played, I think, in the NCAA tournament, maybe the year prior or something, with Ray McCallum. And they had a big center, Garbanzo Beans or whatever, Garzonzo or whatever. He was a big, but one of the assistants really felt bad for me. He's like, "Listen, here's what we'll do. Let's pay this Hawaii guy to videotape so you can sit on the bench with us." So he videotapes, and he's on the bench. So I'm on the bench. So we win that game. That's exciting. And Steve Lavin was the coach of UCLA. So then the championship game gets number 1 Duke. And another thing what's cool is every night, and I remember, so we go 2-0, and now we're playing Duke, and I remember walking the beach with a Ball State shirt, and a guy's like, "How much?" And I'm just like, this is only the team has this shirt," and he's like, 30. I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to have $30, but I can't." So I'm like, "Nah, this is a team shirt. It's a team shirt." So we became rock stars out there.
So wait a minute. Did you say? I apologize for interrupting you. Did you say it loud? No, I can't give this away. This is a team shirt. I'm with the team.
No. You got to understand, there was a lot of times where when you know you're not going to get caught as a manager, oh, yeah, you're the backup point guard, buddy.
Got an ACL. I'm redshirting this year. I'm not even on the roster, but yeah, I'm here. Yeah, absolutely.
To piggyback on that, there was also times where kids are waiting outside when we would travel, the locker room or something. They're like, "Hey, autograph. And they look at me, I go, "No, you don't want it." And they go, "It's fine." And I go, "I'm the manager." And then they'd be like, "Oh, that's awesome." And I'm like, "This isn't baseball. I'm the manager for basketball. This is not." And I also remember there was a time in Central Michigan when the male cheerleader was yelling at me like, blah, blah. Listen, male cheerleader, manager, we're right here together, buddy.
Yes. Let's be careful there. That's great.
So we played Duke, and actually when we're doing the walkthrough for Duke, and that was another thing. Before now, that court has air conditioning. This was before air conditioning, and that was a problem with Kansas. They were complaining about cramping and the floor was slippery and all that stuff. So we played Duke, and we're doing walkthrough, and we can't do walkthrough at the gym, and sometimes we'd go to local high schools. So if we didn't, we're in a conference room, and then it was my job to put tape down in the conference room to build a basketball court. And then we would, and that time I remember, I don't know why we didn't have basketballs. We probably didn't take them with us. So I took towels and we wrapped a towel up in tape, and that was our walkthrough for Duke. So we prepared in the conference room, walked through all Duke stuff.
So that's how Coach K wins all his ball games.
Yeah,
he sets it up so you have to prepare with a taped towel in a conference room.
Well, here's another thing. As I'm thinking about this, I hope we don't run over, but as I'm thinking about this, in 2000, this was 2001,
right?
And I remember, I forget, we leave November 20th or whatever. November 19th, this is totally off subject, but I was thinking about it. November 19th, I went to Subway, and when I went to Subway, I put my wallet on top of my car and I left. And I got home and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know where it is. I did not have a driver's license or anything.
That would never happen.
After 9/11.
Yeah.
So I'm scared to death. I called Mom. I'm like, "Mom, you have to fax me my birth certificate." They don't have a clue where that is. Who knows? They're probably not even my parents. So they're trying to send me stuff. And here's another rule with basketball and some sporting events: you don't let the big dog know. So Coach Buckley's never going to know. And I'm frantic. And so anyway, in 9/11, all that occurs. So now they're doing everything but cavity searches. And I'm getting on a plane from Indy to LA to Hawaii. And my proof of identification was a media guide. I brought a media guide. And I was like, that's me right here, the media guide. And all this is while Coach Buckley is way back there or way in front of me.
I got this, Coach. I'll make sure everybody's on the plane. Yeah. It's okay.
Leave me back here. Everybody gets through security before I go through.
Well, that's the last time I think I lost my wallet.
So literally, I mean, you are one bad conversation away from them saying you can't go.
Exactly. And I think it was LA to Indy on the way back was like the worst they gave me. That's when Buck's like, "What's going on?" I don't know what to tell you. but yeah, that's another. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll make it. So now I'm actually on the bench and not videotaping. And then Buck comes down during the walkthrough at Duke and he's like, "Looks good." And as we finish up, Buck goes, "I saw you on the bench. Who's filming?" And the assistant coach is like, "Oh, we had a guy who really wanted to film, so we let him film." huh, okay. And then it really doesn't hit him until like a week later when I get back. He's like, who was it? Oh, we didn't know, and we're not doing that again. So, you know, I enjoyed that little, and I never had to film except we went to Weiss. We only took two
Two
head
guys.
managers.
You didn't have the other 6 there to help.
Yeah, usually we'll take 2 head managers and an extra one to do that kind of stuff. But anyway, we played Duke and we lose, but and Coach K does that thing where he comes into your locker room like, "Hey, you guys gave it all," and it was neat. So we had a lot of fun, and I remember we came back and we were ranked 15th then. I think that's highest ever. And
All right. What's your best bargain find that you've had during your COVID-19 time? Over the last 8-9 weeks, what's your biggest bargain find? I've seen some things that you've posted, but come on now, what's your best?
oh man, you guys wouldn't believe this stuff. These people buy junk all the time. Let's see, I'm trying to go back and forth. You know, I'm also a guy, I like to go on walks and listen to podcasts, and I on my walks I pick up trash that I put it on Marketplace. I think my best sale is I got this item. I didn't know what it was. When I go to auctions and I do online auctions, I'll buy a whole table of stuff, and then I open it. So it's like Christmas morning. So I get this one item and I tell Hayden, my daughter, I go, this is either going to be a blow up castle or it's going to be like a blow up pool. So we blow it up and it turns out it's a tumbling pad, like it's 3 foot wide and I don't know, 20 feet long. So I Amazon it and it's, I don't know, $275 or something. So I bought this item for $5 with a table of stuff. I think I sold for $180.
Wow.
Guys, we're to the point. I'm probably around $10,000 worth of sales that it's just trying to find deals. Some guy actually just gave me his key to the storage unit, and he said, "Do what you want with it." So I'm going to hook him up with the money and stuff for what he gets, but I really enjoy that.
The picking side of it, of the bargain,
Yeah.
and what's the deal, and make sure it's the right deal.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, so I've gotten so many free things that I just sell. So when you say what's the best deal, I don't know. I've probably made 50 times my money so many times. Lowe's was selling an item the other day for $24. I sold it for 55. It's silly. I mean, I just can't believe what people buy. I enjoy a lot of things, from Ubering to coaching to so many things that I just really like it.
Well, Ubering, you know, you probably get to interact with people and have great conversations, right?
It's like speed dating, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like the thing is, like, I was going on dates and all that stuff, but it was like, I can tell in 10 minutes, is this going to make it or not? So it's like, well, we'll continue for an hour and maybe I'll learn something. And that's the way Uber is. Now, the ironic thing about Uber, I've had this probably, and the Uber stories go on forever. I've Ubered over 600 people, but I've had probably 4 people in the past year who 2 of the 4 would not get out of my car because they thought they were on a game show where I was JJ Watt. And they're like, "You're JJ Watt." And I'm like, "Guys, look at my biceps. I'm not JJ Watt." And they're like, "Yeah." There were 2 guys from, I don't know, LA or something. And they were like, "Where is the TV camera?" And I'm like, I'm literally flexing my arm to show them I am not JJ Watt. But I just
so that's happened multiple times to you.
Oh, the guy at Meyer over the quarantine, I'm checking out and I didn't have a mask on, and he goes, "Wow, you look like JJ Watt." And then he follows it up with this. He goes, I get that people think I look like Peter Griffin from Family Guy. And I just respond with, "Oh, I thought he was animated."
Yeah. You're being compared to a real person, and he's animated.
Yeah, so I get the JJ Watt thing. It's kind of a fun thing, but I do always say I don't have the biceps for JJ Watt.
What's funny about
so I do miss Ubering.
What's funny about the JJ Watson, he has brothers, and they host this new show that we just saw, and we were thinking this could be the Days brothers.
You know, and to be all honesty, I said this just last night. I was talking to somebody. My ultimate goal would be to host a game show. So I have spent a lot more time watching the Game Show Network and thinking that would be the life. Just they have a lot of silly games and just have a lot of fun. And that's kind of what they do. I think Watt does on that ultimate tag. They're just having fun.
Oh yeah, and the conversations you get to have with people and the people
Yeah.
that you'd meet. I mean, it
It's-
sounds like the
it's-
perfect
that's-
job for you.
Things I'm reading and podcasting. I just really, I hate to sleep on this life. I love it. And I just, you know, I watch garbage and I watch stuff educational. I've seen over 3,000 movies. I've watched over 100 TV shows every episode. I just want to have a conversation with somebody.
Well, I'll tell you that there's a quote there that probably ought to be on your desk. I don't want to sleep on this life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really a remarkable way to think about. You know, we've only got so many days. This year's big Shelby County Championship win. We only got so many days, so let's make the most of them.
Thanks to Southwestern varsity boys coach Brady Days for the time to talk about everything from best ways to board a plane without an ID, what it was like to get time with some Indiana basketball legends, and of course, reliving the Spartans' 2020 Shelby County title.
Make sure to tune in next week for part 1 of a 2-part episode as we relive the 2018 5-overtime girls sectional championship game between the Waldron Lady Mohawks and the Jacksonville Lady Eagles. We're very fortunate to have both coaches Anthony Thomas and future Hall of Famer Coach Scott Smith dive deep into the game that will forever live in Indiana basketball history. As always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Flat Rock Ag, Larry Moore Construction, Kokomo Grain, and Flat Rock Precision. For Dave Blondell, our executive producer, I'm Kurt Carell. Thanks for tuning in to Spartan Heads.